Shalom alahayakun, everyone. I see that there's about 11 of you viewing. Thank you for joining me today as we are coming to the close of 2022 and we're venturing into 2023. I don't know about you guys, but this year went super fast for me. I'm shocked, actually. I know I was busy, but it seems like time is moving much more quickly than it used to. I'm going to start talking right away and sharing some of the challenges that I'm facing right now, not necessarily like my personal life, but that which Ken and I are attempting to do in sharing with all of you. The most challenging things that I run into is when individuals choose to cling on so tightly to the English narratives. I am not blaming translators at all. That is not my heart. And I'm not blaming them because when we were looking at our translated works, when these works became translated, we were in a different place in our consciousness level. And because we were in a different consciousness level, the mirror in which we were being reflected back upon was very diminished. Happy to see all of you guys here. Thank you for joining me so far and letting me know who's in the house. We started with 11, we're down to 7, so I lost some as soon as I said hello. That's funny. Anyway, one of the biggest obstacles I'm running into right now is the tetragrammaton, Yod, He, Vav, He. Some people just do not have the ability to let go of that being a bloodthirsty, angry God, and I have done what I can to show through the letters that frequency and vibration is the power of desire to create. And that's literally through the letter interpretations of what the tetragrammaton means. And I'm going to continue to do my best in bringing forth these meanings of these words so that we can collapse all of these egregores. If we take an offense to any one thing and we hold a strong offense to it, we are blocking the light from coming into us. And generally because there's a shadow that needs to be transmuted and translated into a higher dimensional frequency. So if one is wanting to hold on to that bloodthirsty, angry God that they just can't forgive, well, that's a forgiveness issue. And many times what happens is that those of us who want to project it outwardly that way are looking for like a scapegoat. And I say this because many times we don't want to look at our own shadow. We don't want to confront the darkness that is within all of us. It is there because we were created as light and dark. And so for us to not acknowledge the darkness that is within us is us not acknowledging half of our being. And actually, what is that doing? It's denying the feminine energy, which is needed for creation. It's the energy that actually puts forth and brings forth life so something becomes a living being. This is why when we create without having the feminine energy present in it, things are in a rapid rate of decay. You know, think about inanimate objects. Think about building a house. Think about how much upkeep is required to keep a house up in order because it's not filled with chaya. It's been built in the masculine energy, but it hasn't been filled with the life force energy because it's a container that is really not containing that. It houses us. We're the life force energy in it, and we're the ones that have to keep it up. I'm saying all of that because when we choose to have that negative view of those 4 letters, Yod, He, Vav, He, and we connect an egregore to it, we are actually limiting the view of who we are as creators because it's a creation formula. It's the power of desire to create. And it has both twin energies of the masculine and the feminine there that are enjoining together through the ethereal and the material realm of who we are on the inside out. So it's very important that we collapse the egregore of Yod, He, Vav, He, translated as all caps Lord in your English Bibles. Collapse that egregore that it's a bloodthirsty, angry God that's trying to smite everyone, and begin to realize that there is something much more deeply being expressed to us in the Hebrew language that cannot come through to the English translations in a way that we can actually do something with. I mean, that's why we're trying to do what we can to collapse these words and fill them up with meaning, so that we can get rid of those egregores that we have chained ourselves to, that we've subjected ourselves to the things that we reject and push away, instead of realizing that there is so much deeper revelation that's there if we could put away our offenses. And for some, I don't know why they can't seem to do that. And I say they because without us finding oneness, unity within, we're always going to be rejecting and pushing away the elements that we do not like. And that keeps us in total separation. Because a lot of us, there's the darkness that's within us that we refuse to look at. And we have to. We have to be able to reconcile it all as one, because these energies are needed to make sustainability happen. And that's why things are falling apart around us right now, because we're not embracing that and we refuse to look at it. So I just wanted to bring that out to let you guys know that part of what Ken and I are doing, if you're new to our work, part of what we are doing is to reframe, reshape, reform the English Bible through the lenses of Hebrew and Aramaic thought into the deeper recesses of what is in there as we excavate out. Because in that translation work, you are translating yourself. You are actually finding who you are through the sacred writings. Now, I know there's many that still want to hold on to the surface narratives and the plain text. But unfortunately, with the plain text, what ends up happening is that when you do the literal translations, you are not, I'll put it this way, Hebraic and Aramaic mindset in the form of study would never look at something as a literal translation. And in actuality, it's kind of like a safeguard, because we are talking about languages that are a technology, things that do affect matter, things that change. Because if you look into the study of cymatics, the three languages that do that are Hebrew, Aramaic, and Sanskrit. And these technologies, these languages that affect matter, have a safeguard protective layer on them, and it's called the literal translation. So when we take a look at them, you could say, well, we have these writings here that seem to be a historical record of what happened, who, why, when, where, and laws that were written. But in reality, it is all analogy with some history scattered here and there through it. And it's meant for the deeper dive. It's actually meant for us to take us all the way down to the soul, to the mystery level. Because technically, where we live, we are in one gigantic mystery school. And the mystery is to solve who we are, why we are here, what are we doing here, what's our purpose. And many of us in our journey, that's what we're trying to answer when we begin waking up, is realizing that there's something greater to the cause of us being here. And the sacred languages help define that journey. Now, am I telling everybody here that you have to study the sacred language? Absolutely not. I would never do that. I would never, ever do that. I would say if it's drawing you, then join in and do it, if it's drawing you. But I would never tell anybody that they have to do this to acquire or become anything. I am saying that it is a blueprint, it is a roadmap, and it allows you to excavate yourself much more deeply and quicker than things that, let's say, meditation of contemplation for 30 years. You could do it in a much more rapid fashion by taking the things that you are excavating out as your mirror and then meditating upon those, because it literally is showing you a reflection, like the laver, where the priest would go look in the laver, they would look at that reflection, and it would determine whether or not they could move and advance forward into the holy place. And then if you were the high priest into the Holy of Holies, again, all analogies to that which we need to render clear in order to neutralize it, so that we can get into the Holy of Holies, the most sacred space, which is really the Magdalene heart and the Christ anointing that are unified in coherence, where we become plasmatic beings, our light beings, again, as Adam Kadmon, our original template and design that then was changed when the mother of all living, Chava, was pulled out of Adam, mankind. It's our hunt and our chase in this lifetime to go get Chava back, to put chava back in mankind so that we have our negentropy state, our living state, instead of being the walking dead. I know some of you, a lot of you, this is old news to you. I'm not really seeing anybody new to us here, although I know, Carolyn, you're newer to some of our thoughts on this. Take us through the 7 candlesticks. I will at some other point with the chakra system and what's going on there, but today I'm wanting to work on the Ascension Psalms. And yes, Renegade, that is the Ascension Psalms can be correlated to the chakra system because we are moving light within all the way down to the lower chakras and back up again so that the twin flames can seek the final destination and illuminate the crown so that we become enlightened again. So yes, Deb, I know the huge questions as who am I, why am I here? I understand that. Well, I will tell you this, that when you start to engage these languages, as you have chosen to come on in and start learning them, you will find out exactly who you are and why you are here, because it really defines you. It helps with that seeking process. So let's see. I meant the path is through the 7 candlesticks. Yes, exactly. Thanks for clarifying that. I appreciate that greatly. Let's see, what else do I wanted to say? So the difficulty that I'm finding is that people are wanting to hang on to the English narratives. I've been getting some pushback lately from people that do not know the work that my husband and I do, and they're very vocal in their thoughts, and I bless everyone. I love that people do share their hearts and where they're at, because then I can see them. I can see them as a reflection of me and have much compassion for the journey, because a lot of times I was there already. So without going into any more, I think we've got people who are joining here. We're 16 minutes in and I seem to be rambling on. So let's move on and get into the Ascension Psalm. Let's get into the review of where we left off 2 weeks ago. I would like to get through 2 Psalms today, or 2 verses today. Don't know if it's going to happen or not, because they are definitely correlated together. If I stay on track and not get too carried away with sharing side notes, we should be able to do that. So let's start doing it. I'm going to do my share screen here. Here we are. Okay, the review that I wanted to go through with you. First of all, please let me remind you, when we were looking at the word Netzal 2 weeks ago, I wanted to show you that the 3-letter root word is written many different forms. These are all the different forms and transliterations down. Well, I didn't have all the transliterations down below because I deleted those. But these are all the different ways that 3-letter root word has been written for just one word. And because there's all of these movements that are in here, every single letter and the movements of the letters, additions, deletions, all of those things have meanings that cannot be transferred over into our English translations. So I know that's a little overwhelming in taking a look at what's on this picture here with all of these movements of the letters, but please connect and understand that when we're looking at these words, these movements, the translators did not carry over what was going on from these movements. And that is why we study and we dig deeper, because in digging deeper, we get to examine every portion, every movement of these words and what it's speaking to us, because there's 3 areas that are being addressed. The first area, our external world, is being addressed. So how we interact with one another, teaching us how to play well in the sandbox is what I've been using as of late. That outward orientation, so that we can provide a safe space for all of us to interact with one another. The second portion is then dealing with the inward world of emotions, and really through the shadow side. That is that hidden aspect of the things that are kind of running in the show behind the scenes, with our shadow, our pains, our traumas, things that trigger us, that move us out of our peace, that cause difficulty in us having relationships with one another. And then we actually move into the inward portion of the word, which deals with the inner man. And we're talking that directly with the heart. The Hebraic and Aramaic mindset is everything would have been approached through the inward man and not the egoic mind. In our Western civilization, we have been raised up in the Greco-Roman mindset, again, because everything became Hellenized. And although we have the English language, if you take a look at it, the Indo-European root system, it's very Germanic in nature. And you can do all your etymology and root English words out, and you can see it's such an amalgamation. It's considered a dead language. And because we were taught that, and then we were taught the Greco-Roman mindset of very linear thinking and presenting it from the mind, it's like another hurdle that we need to jump through to be able to activate and begin seeing and connecting to our heart first, where the heart is leading instead of the mind. The mind will screw with you pretty good, because that's where the ego dwells. That's where the ego sits on the amygdala and kind of runs the ship. It's actually that which is seated on the throne in your mind. That is the Antichrist, because it keeps us from walking in the anointing. When we dethrone it, meaning that it is no longer operating in fear, and it actually is the place where it's tamed, it is quite useful, because it's the tool that allows us to be separate from one another in having our separate experience. But that ego doesn't keep us from joining with one another in oneness union. It's just how I can differentiate myself in this avatar as Carrie from someone else that I'm sitting across upon as another expression of the God spark, the God element. So the ego is very useful, very beneficial. I'm not going to shame and guilt it anymore, but we do need to get it under control. We need to get it under control so that we can have healthy union with ourselves, but more importantly with one another as we are walking this out together. So hopefully, let me just do a quick stop share, and hopefully I didn't eliminate. No, I'm still here. All right. Just checking to see where you guys are at and see who's joining us. Happy to have everybody here. Patricia, great to see you from New Zealand. I love it. Okay, so let's go back now into, and we're going to look kind of where we were at when we were in verse 2. I'm not going to go into that too deep, but we are going to take a poke at that. Okay, here we go. So when we were looking at, let me go all the way back up here. So we were discussing the tetragrammaton again, the thing that I was sharing at the beginning that everybody still wants to connect to and hang on to is the bloodthirsty, angry God. And we were talking about stripping ourselves down and the revelation that comes from the masculine and the feminine energy and the journey within the journey. We were talking about breathing creatures and dealing with that inward life. So the verse 2 that we're moving out of into verse 3 is talking about the inward journey here, about a living being, desires, emotions, and passions, and the importance of that, and about raising us up out of our pride and getting into a place where we're refreshed. And we're talking about being swept away or snatched away or caught up. And when we're talking about caught up, we're talking about catching ourselves up into a higher dimensional way of relating. So you could say a higher level of consciousness. And this is moving us out of the death frequency into the negentropic state where we're actually producing life. And it was directly connected to the sacred languages. That pei is connected to the mouth that is revealing the power that reveals to us what is necessary to become one. And we connected it to the Queen of Heaven. We were also talking about drawing out all falsehoods, all hatred, all lies, all disappointments that was connected into this, and how that the word, the tongue, the language of the people is to help draw this out through both staffs of authority, through the transmutable sign, and delivering ourselves from all that is lacking, and through the query of things that we have seen in as deceit and treachery. Part of this is having to do with our ignorance. My husband has used this phrase for many years. How can you reach to restore when there's ignorance to neglect? And that isn't something that's pointing necessarily outwardly, meaning I would never use that. I would never use that externally in speaking to somebody else about themselves. I would be pointing it all inwardly, and I would say, how can I reach to restore myself within if I'm ignorant to the fact that there's something that's been neglected? And then when we do that in our sense of becoming, it automatically is drawing those that can see that something has changed within us. We draw a frequency of wholeness and having been healed, where we have unconditional love for ourselves, and it's automatically going to draw people. But it will also repel others that are uncomfortable in one who lives in a unfettered way of seeing and loving, and in that state of becoming. It can be very uncomfortable for those who are dealing with tremendous shadows that they do not want to see, simply because when you're in the presence of someone who has stripped themselves down to that nakedness level where everything has just been fully exposed and been neutralized, there's generally a, because it's so open and transparent, it's not in that raw state of emotions, but it's not hidden anymore. And most of us are used to functioning with people where that essence is hidden. We put on a lot of different masks and we try to function through those masks. When we got down to the end of this, we were actually seeing that the feminine was betrayed in this whole process, because our religious systems cut that side away. In the history book, if you want to take a look at the history of the Bible and when it talked about Josiah, what Josiah did, and cutting down all the Asherah poles, which was related to the Queen of Heaven, which has to do with that divine feminine energy of the God essence, both masculine and feminine. It literally was constricting the ability for the life force to flow and create sustainability. Anyway, it is the absolute energy that keeps everything living and moving. And in creation, as in the outward world, it already has that sense of negentropy. It's already self-ordering. There's an order and a discipline to our outward world, and all of the beasts operate in that system. When we come into that separated individual egoic self, we lose all of that, and we have to get ourselves on track to be able to regain that. So that's where we left off. And now we're going to dive into Psalm 120, verse 3. It starts out with a query. It's actually in that place of questioning. I wish I could keep that on. Hold on a second, folks. Let me see if I can. I'm a little nervous because the last time I was messing around with this, I popped out and I turned off the whole live stream, or I mean, I couldn't get back on. It was just a blank screen. And so I'm trying to be very cautious about what I'm doing here, but I want to see your questions. I want to be able to see and interact with you guys. So we will attempt this one more time. Let me go back in, and I just may have to, I don't know, we'll see. Be mindful. Okay. Here we go. So this very first word that we are looking at here, see if I can do it that way and make it a little easier for me to see. All right. That very first word that we're looking here on this screen it's a question. You can see it's translated in English as into what. And through the letters, we're seeing that it's chaos revealed. And so these questions have to do with who, what, why, when, and how. So again, we can see that the feminine was betrayed. There's a question that's coming in because there's an incredible call for this maturation, for this ascension process. And most of us have questions, like I was sharing before, who am I? Why am I here? What am I doing in this mystery school of where we have found ourselves, and we've had our memories wiped, and we literally do not know why we're here. This is starting out saying, here's a strong question. And generally we start questioning. The mem is about chaos. It's a feminine energy. And so that feminine energy is already, because of the chaos, there's a question being presented, something that's needing to be revealed to us. So when we're on chaos, that's generally when we start asking questions. Why is my life falling apart? Why is there so much chaos abroad? And if you look externally, you can see that it's mirrored of what a lot of us are going through. There's still a tremendous amount of warfare that is going in on the inside of us. And so this chaos that we're seeing in the outer world is because that feminine energy is trying to reveal to us our shadow. That's what this is saying. So if you're asking questions why maybe your world is falling apart, or you're having a lot of chaos, maybe you're having a lot of emotional turbulence in your world. It could be that you're feeling a lot of anger right now. You could be feeling a lot of depression. If you haven't, if that doesn't hit any of you, then you've probably transmuted a lot of your shadows. But I have been seeing a lot of posts of where individuals are wrestling right now, and it's intentional, it's purpose, because we're moving now into greater light. And when we shift over into March, we're moving into the age of Aquarius. This is a huge transition that we're going through. So this beginning psalm right here is presenting that question. And I wanted to remind you, the word hell is been translated into hell is the word Sheol, and Sheol means the place of inquiry. So whenever we see this right here, this is actually that active state of I'm in question. I have a question. I'm in hell. I don't have an answer. I have a lot of chaos and it's being revealed to me, and I need to have an answer. And that is when Mother, that divine feminine energy, is coming in and surrounding us to bring forth these revelations so that we begin to ask questions. Because the thing that feminine energy, the Lila energy, is really wanting is to be able to embrace us and reveal the shadow so we can walk it out together and transmute it. It's actually really beautiful when you can see it that way. So let's see if I can get back. Let's see if I can minimize here and go back into the document so I can move it down a little bit. All right. There's a conjunctive dash connecting the first word with the second word, and it says, and shall be given. So the divine feminine energy is wanting to give us something. And what is the divine feminine wanting to give to us? It's interesting because it's, to put and to make and give and gave. But when we take a look at the letters, it's literally the power of the dragon. Now, for some of you, that might have a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction when you hear me speak about it. If you're new to my work or my husband's work, the dragon is not what we have been. The dragon is not what we have been given as an image through our English Bibles, because most people will say, oh, it's evil, it's awful, and they have a lot of fear attached to it. But it's a symbol, and it's a symbol of authority. In fact, it is a symbol that represents an emperor. We're not talking about kings or queens. We're talking about emperors and empires. We are talking about a much stronger sphere of influence, a much larger, greater sphere of influence than just a king and a queen. So this is Mother, there's a question being presented. That feminine energy, Lila, is wanting to give to us the power of the dragon. That's what the gift is all about. But it comes with its own instruction in there that it says, I'm giving this to you, but you got to do something with it. The little yod that's in the very front of the word. I want to get there. That little yod right in the front is saying there's work to be done. So this is just not given to you. You do not get the authority of an emperor unless you do your work. And this is telling us that there's that tav right in the middle. There's a dagesh. It means there's two covenants of completion that need to be unified within. And if you guys remember me sharing with you about the wife in Revelation chapter 12, both of those tavs of the word wife had moved into the center of her being, which as soon as you become a wife, you become a queen. That's with the ancient Hebrew wedding. And so the Queen of Heaven has both of those covenants within. There's a covenant within the covenant, and it has to do with fire. It has to do with negentropy. It has to do with our authority of our outer world and our inner world that are completely united. And it's a letter that means completion. And when that's completed, Noon is connected to prodigy. It's connected to our DNA. It is connected to our nobility, our line of heirship in something that we are sowing not only into ourselves, but future generations, because of the noble seed line that is within us, the nobility that is being activated, because this is a gift that the divine feminine energy is wanting to give to us. And it hasn't been here because that divine feminine energy had been betrayed. and had been set apart. So this is really huge for us to connect to in this verse. That's why these Ascension Psalms, like, oh, it just blows my mind. When I first went through them, I went, oh yeah, I see this here and there, until I started really digging, and I'm like, oh my gosh, these have to be discussed now as we're moving into 2023, because this is a support system for us to understand that this vibrational frequency that is being released right now in this language, this frequency that is being given to you, and is being put out in the collective as an energy frequency that we can jump aboard on and actually travel with in the wave system. It's like it's giving us greater ability to see who we are. And that's why I want to share this with you, and why I'm going to collapse all those egregores so you can stop thinking in a diminished fear factor of what the dragon is. It's authority. It's an emperor's authority and our noble birthright if we do the work. But again, it's not going to be given to you without you doing the work. All right. Moving on here, we have the next, and this is interesting. There's no Strongs. This next word here, the Lamed Kaf, there's just 2 letters here. There's no Strongs for it. And so if you were trying to look this up yourself, you would look at it and you go, okay, so what is this saying here? There's no Strong's correlation for me to take a look at. Well, it's because they don't have it. I mean, if you don't know the code and you don't know the meanings of the letters, you're kind of lost on this, and you just have to take it to what they've translated it as to you. But when you take a look at the letters themselves and you see that the Lamed means to, teach and learn and compile and put together in wisdom, and it has to do with a staff of authority, right? So we just came off the dragon's staff of authority that is meant to prod, urge, goad, and sting. And again, we're talking about our inward reality. We're talking about something that we are being shepherded through, which is the sacred languages. Yes, you can have teachers, you can have external shepherds for a while, and you always know who is a good shepherd because they don't want to force you to do anything. They lead from behind to push you up and lift you up. It's not about them looking for the limelight or having any praise pointed to them. It's all about them pushing you forward and lifting you up and bringing praise and adoration to whom they are sharing with, because part of this process of mother is validating the inner child. And that's what we do for ourselves when we're reparenting. But sometimes we need a little bit of help from the outside to help validate the individual and say, you matter. You're here. You matter. Everything that you've done. Mishka, hey girl, come on. I'm on a live stream. Anyway, so this Lamed Kaf, this emperor's staff, this shepherding staff, is really guiding us and directing us. And so as a dragon, as an emperor, this authority is being given. The Kaf is added to that Lamed, and this Kaf is in the frequency of that letter itself. It created with a Kaf and a Pei as its constituent letters is connected to the language. You don't see the Pei there, but that Pei goes into making up that symbol. All the Hebrew letters are made up of symbols that create the singular symbol. So they're letters within the symbol itself that are trying to express a much greater expanse of the white fire that is coming, that from the ether realm, the tapping into the wave frequency that then gets compressed into particle and then expands as wave back into us. And it's compressed within the black letters, the black fire, is trying to take this information to expand it within us. So that Pei is a language that is bringing forth the power of revelation to unify yourself within. And the only ones I've seen, Sanskrit does it, again, like I said, but I don't study Sanskrit, but I feel the vibration of it. I love Sanskrit, but it very much so is in the Hebrew and the Aramaic. So this Kaf, the meaning of this is to bend, so that you're flexible, to taming that beast ego, to allow things to happen, to pass through, and to open you up. It's great that we have a bud as a rose, but we want to open you up so that the fragrance of your own flower, you're blooming into the pinnacle point of the fruition of your maturation, can be seen, and it can be smelled as a beautiful fragrance unto creation. And so this is very much connected to that, opening us up. It's a shortened form also of the word halak, which means our walk, that which we walk as in a pathway. And it's kind of like it's a well-trodden path. But unfortunately, because this was removed from us, it hasn't been well-trodden. And that's what I'm hoping to at least attempt to do for you and for others who decide to come in on this journey, is make it a well-trodden path so that we can all walk in the way that was taught by Ishu Mashika, the way of negentropy. And again, the way of negentropy was being taught through the Torah, the Hebrew writings. That was what Ishu was working with. So this halak is getting us to the place where we're being opened and we've been tamed and we're flexible, aka no longer stiff-necked. When we move into the next word, we have Yisuf. And I got excited when I see this because this is actually connected to Joseph, as it's translated as Joseph. And it means to add in the simple terms, meaning to add. So let's dig a little bit deeper in on here. I need to get into my paper a little bit more. I can't see it. It's very small from when I can look and see your questions. So shall be added to you, increased. I wanted to dig a little bit deeper in this word so that we can see what is being communicated to us. If you connect the Sumek, Yod, and Pei, again, every of these words, they have words within words that don't get translated out, but that frequency is there. This is sword. This is a sword, or to fence, as in a swordsman. So when you guys can probably already connect to many English writings when I speak about the sword, especially within the book of Revelation. And so even in the English writings, when Ishu, it is purported and translated that I came to bring a sword, right here. Why do you think the sword comes out of the mouth when we look into the book of Revelation? Because it's connected to the speech itself, the language, the actual language itself that is a sword. So when we see the parent roots coming together here, when we see the Yod and Samek here, which is the first two letters, it's movement of progression. So again, the question is given, how does this happen? Mother's saying, I'm going to take you through this journey, this walk that is going to allow movement to happen, and it's going to tame you, and it's going to open you up wide. And again, as we saw here, here's that question again. But this time with this question, before we get into Joseph, the Vav has been added. So it's basically saying, in order for this to happen, you need to connect to the fact that you have a question anyway. And because you have a question, something will be added to you. This is why I love people when they ask questions, especially when I teach on Patreon and going through the letters right now. We're still on Aleph. We've done part 1, 2, and 3 of the Aleph, and we'll finish it up next week. And we still have 21 more letters to go through. But I encourage questions, because right here is even showing us that by connecting to these questions, the fact that in your external realm, you're experiencing this, that you're wanting to be you're being transmutable, meaning I'm no longer stiff-necked. I am flexible. I'm wanting to know these answers so that certain things can be added to me. And this is specifically saying, so the sword can be added to me. I hope you guys are connecting that. This is a really big deal here. It's a movement of progression so that we can receive the sword. And then when we get to the parent roots of the last two letters here, it's literally the manifestation, like manifestation as in making it happen, united to speech. Well, what speech? The language that gives you the revelation through cymatics that is your own translated works of your own translation. And what does it provide for us? It brings us into the place of beauty, grace, charm, and attraction. That's why I shared with you earlier that as we move through this and we transition and we heal all of those shadows, others are attracted to us. And it's not like when I communicate with you, I pretty much use plain speech. My wonderful friend Doug Wentz, when he writes, he's so eloquent in how he writes. And I don't speak like that, and I don't write like that. I'm pretty plain speech. But what you are going to get from me is my heart. And I want to try to keep it as simple as possible so I don't lose you in lofty words. I want you to be able to apply what I'm sharing with you here. So the beauty, grace, and charm and attraction should be coming from that which we've done on the inside, the work and the deed of our own hand. And the frequency of here is actually showing us that we've got these two yods here, which is showing that there's two works that need to be done. And again, with the masculine energy and the feminine energy through mother and fathers raising us up and teaching us through a vision, in order for us to become supported, hedged in, propped in a closed system where there's not so much chaos. We're now in that place of completion of shalom because we've married, we've unified ourselves. It's a symbol of a wedding ring and a signet ring, which again is speaking of authority. The emperor's authority, the signet ring, the staff, it's all being presented and laid out to us in this verse itself. Now we move into that 2U again, but I want to show you something that didn't happen the first time. Notice the difference between 2U here and the 2U here. Can you see the difference? Do you see that little dot, that little diamond? That little diamond in cannellation mark literally means a gift from God. A gift from God. So as we're moving through the progression of the psalm, it's saying that this is being gifted to you. It's a gift from God, aka higher source of the quantum realm, strong leader teaching shepherds that are trying to unify all of us into that oneness unity through that. And this, because it's a lamed, it's the gift of the lamed that is being given to those who have gone through the process, who are teachable, who are flexible, who are being opened up, and they're choosing to allow this process to happen because what have they done? They've tamed their beast ego nature, that which holds on to things and is manipulating through fear. And of course, it doesn't help in our external world that we have so much that's always being projected upon us to help that fear be shored up. This is actually showing that there is a closed element to this. I also will share with you as we move into it a little bit deeper, if I can get into the next verse, and I don't think we will because we're already at 45 minutes of share time already, that this frequency here with the Samek Yod Pei has to do also with the end of something, the completion of something. So it's the power of completion that is coming through those who are wed, given that signet ring, they found the power within through the speech and language that is revealing that nature of unification that is being given as a gift. I did want to go into a little bit deeper here. Now that we're establishing this as a gift, I wanted to talk about the parent root with the Lamed Kaf. These two letters, so parent roots are a masculine and a feminine energy that are uniting in order to bring forth a third, which is like the Trinity. So mother, father, son, mother, father, child, child root. It's the action of moving forward and making it into a verb in a Trinity state of being, and that affects our triune being. But as the parent root's coming and bringing this forward, look what this is saying here. It's a determined message and executing a mission. So remember in the very beginning where it was a question was being asked, who, what, why, where, how does this happen? This is letting us know that these sacred languages have a determined message for your walk in order to execute a mission as those who have been sent on a mission. Please hear what I'm saying. If the sacred languages are calling to you, that's because you were sent on a mission to gather the sacred languages, to become them, and then be sent out on a mission with them because of the power, the technology that is being given to us to be able to affect our external world. As a delegate, change, interchange, succession, to bend and wind. Look at this etymology here as I was looking at, because I went into vicar because it's part of a vicarship. And of course, we can connect this to the Catholic Church and things of that nature, or anything that has come out of it that has that word vicar in it. But when we look at the etymology, it's the fact or right of succeeding someone by inheritance. Oh, it's so good. This is our inheritance. And it has been kept away from us because we went into such dark times that this message of light couldn't be given until now. That's why many of you are being roused awake to it, and why we've had more people come and decide to hang out with us on YouTube, and more people that are wanting to hang out on with us on Patreon and learn these things, is because we're now entering into the light, so these languages can surface again. It's like gates wide open, come on out of your hiding, which is really us coming out of our hiding. And it's coming into another's place as a result. Oh, as a result of what? The tongue, the language, and it's figurative for a people. The people that have the tongue of the Akkadian flame letters, the fire letters, the letters of light, the light language. So amazing. I want to show you this in connecting as we go a little bit deeper with the sheen, and I know I go deeper into the next verse on this, and I don't know if I want to take too much time unless I check in with you guys and you don't mind hanging out with me a little bit longer. Most people only watch about 20 minutes of these videos anyway, so kudos for those of you who go from start to finish, because I know like an hour and a half or an hour and 15 minutes of your time is very precious indeed. And I appreciate that greatly, because I know the cost that's involved to join us here to do this. When we move, when we're looking at this, I'm going to wait. I'll go into more detail on it on the next verse. But understand here that this tongue of fire that we are talking about is connected to inculcation's walk that sharpens us. But it is something, because the sheen itself has to do with teeth. It has to do with chewing. It has to do with the fire of God. It literally means that we have to chew upon these things. So the things that I am sharing with you here is not the milk of the word. The milk of the word would be mother's teaching, outward, external orientation. I am talking about the inner, deep introspection of self in digging the deep well that is within you, where you're going to have to chew on this. And for some of us, as we're collapsing egregores, it can be some really chewy meat too. You might get a little bit of gristle in there, but all of that is good for you in what it's producing as spiritual food that we choose to eat upon. But it does take time to process it and then digest it. It's meant to take time. It's meant for you to roll around on it a little bit before it actually, you can fully digest it. And that's why I can only share so much with you before those of you are like, God, it's like too much. It's falling out of my head. I can't take anymore. I'm pretty good with my husband for about an hour and a half when he shares, and then I got to turn it off. So I know what this does. I just get excited to share it with you. So the tongue, this language is talking about transforming us from the inside out in order for us to connect as that transmutable sign, that vav in the middle. So we're connecting our higher self, our lower self, the terrestrial aspect with the celestial higher realms of our unified being. And that's the whole goal, is we're trying to unify that because of Prodigy's seed, so that we can begin to have this perpetual state of being be back here on earth, where Adam Kadmon, through the genetics, is actually being fully restored. So if any of you guys have looked into epigenetics, this is what I'm talking about here. That noon is specifically connected to DNA, to epigenetics, future generations, but because it's quantum, it goes in all realms. And so this is literally the restoration of all things. And this language really assists to do that, because it's literally found in our DNA. Check Braden's work out for that and what they have found, amongst others. I posted something on Patreon about a Hebrew scholar doctor that actually found it as well. So, two witnesses to validate a thing. And this is all about the inner man, the heart. Again, that negentropic state of being, kaya. Now we get into the word. And so if you were looking at the English translation of tongue and it says, you false tongue, that could get, you can look at that and go, what's going on here? Well, let's take a look and see what is going on here, because when we're looking at the word that that it's broken down into and that we see, there's a couple things here. Resh mem, when we look at that, is a contracted form of room, which means to elevate or to lift up and to make high. And then we have yod he on the suffix side, which is a shortened form, a contracted form of the word God. And this is the power of revelation, or the work indeed of the revelation that happens, and because it's on the suffix, through the feminine frequency, that we're actually lifting up the Shekinah glory. It's connected. It's, the translations will say you and false, but take a look at what also is here. Remissness, lacking care or attention to duty, neglect. What did I share with you before? How can we reach to restore when there's ignorance to neglect? Right here. The fact that we've been neglecting our work, because the yod is connected to the work indeed of the hand, power, means, and direction to deal with the hay, the shadow, in order to transmute it to become the glory of God. If you want to be the glory of God walking on the earth again, if you want to show God's glory, again, I use that very loosely, because again, trying to collapse those outward egregores so that we understand what this is saying about our inward reality, then manifesting externally. We are actually saying the work and deed of our shadow is where the glory comes from. So if you choose to ignore your shadow, you will never be God working in the earth. You must do work with it in order to elevate and lift yourself out of that poor and destitute place. What is the poor and destitute place of chaos? Entropy. Again, Chava, the mother of all living, was pulled out of mankind. It's our job to go and reunite that. And that reunification comes from Lila, the inner child, that feminine energy that is usually has been traumatic in its all the trauma that we've had because of separation, fear of abandonment. And think about it epigenetically. That divine feminine has been cut out for how many thousands of years in our Western culture? So most of us already have this abandonment thing that has happened to us epigenetically, based on that energy center connected to our inner child was already rejected and abandoned. So what are we doing? Well, we're taking this information and we're transmuting that within ourselves so that it translates epigenetically to future generations, so that they don't have to have that same fear of abandonment, neglect, rejection. We are doing it to help aid the entire collective by doing it ourselves. This is why I'm always sharing with you guys, and I'm hounding on do your shadow work, do your shadow work. Because if we want to do something in the external realm, we don't like seeing the things that we're witnessing. The shadow work must be taken care of, because this is how we lift up the God sense, our divinity within, is by embracing it and doing something with it. Now, I want to share with you, I'm going to land the plane. We're not going to go into the other verse. I was hoping to get there today, but I've talked too much. Said too many words today. I found this very interesting when I was looking and I was digging down and I was looking into the minutiae of this word, because this last word in this verse, translated as you, false, it is connected to shooting, striking, aiming, aim a blow at, cast, throw, a bow shooter, a bowman. And you can see there's other things in here with guile and deceive and mislead and deal treacherously with, betray and to hurl. You can see what's going on here. But I find it interesting because part of this about shooting or aiming and connected to an arrow is connected to yire, which is yod resh he, which is, it's, basically here's the resh and the hay of yire with the mem that's in the middle. Why is this so important? Why am I drilling down on this? Because we have chaos on the inside. This is where we can be misled. And this is where we can deal treacherously with another, where the betrayal, all of these things that happen. And the reason why is that mem is connected to chaos. This is why we're saying that inner self, where are all the wounds? Where are all those emotions kept at? In the inner man, right here in the heart. So if we have chaos within us, many times we will shut that heart off. We will turn off that chakra. And when we turn that off, it's because we have so much chaos in the inside that we're not wanting to feel. And as soon as we choose not to feel, then we're not dealing with our shadow. We're not dealing with our own wounds. We're like literally making a heart of stone that isn't flexible, that isn't open wide. It is closed off. And this is why we have issues with deceit and treachery and to betray. Because if our heart was wide open, if we actually dealt with the chaos that's in the inside and lifted ourselves up and out of that, we wouldn't be doing those things. And so the resolve is saying, hey, if you see this going on, especially in our external world, it's because there's stuff that needs to be happening in here. And this is pointing out to us there's lacking care or attention to our duty as that royal nobility line because we've neglected something. And these Psalms are letting us and pointing out. Remember, there was a query at the beginning, and you want to know why things are happening. Well, it's because you are not paying attention to the things that you need to deal with. The own work of your own shadow, of all your pain and suffering. And yes, I get it. It sucks to have to go through that and touch those wounds again. The only way healing comes is by looking at them at the face and feeling them and allowing yourself and giving yourself permission to feel, because feelings are the greatest gift that has been given to us. We never want to eliminate our emotions and our feelings. That is what makes us, as mankind, be able to feel our experiences, because that is the frequency, our emotions, of what we use to create with. Two camps, fear or love. You're either going to create through fear or you're going to create through love. If you've transmuted all shadows, then your strong emotions of love are creating a thing of love that will beget love. If you're creating through fear, you're creating more fear, and that's what you will beget. Your choice. Transmute the shadows, no longer any fear, perfected love, and you will not have that chaos. And this is actually talking about Bowman's. It's interesting if you take a look at any of Kabbalah, please. I've collapsed that many times. You need to look in to see what the Hebrew word means of Kabbalah, not what you've been told through the English narratives or what your pastor has said or layman's or anybody else that is trying to put fear on you that it's something evil. It just means the oral tradition, something that is being given that needs to be received, that actually allows you to listen to the voice within. Listen to the voice within. In their imagery, they will actually show the tree of life, the Kabbalistic tree of life, in the center path, which unifies the both masculine and feminine energy, is called the path of the arrow. It is known as the path of the mystic. And if you have issues with the word mystic, I ask that you go and look that up and take a look at the etymology again, so you can collapse it and refill it with a meaning that is balanced, that is mature, that is taking in both energies of love instead of fear. So the resolve in this comes from being able to raise ourselves out of the chaos within by doing the work and the deed of our own hand in our shadow, so that we can reveal the Shekinah glory. And so this is actually showing us that the question is, how do we make this happen with all the things that we saw on above? What happened with the verse 2? It's actually giving you the ability to walk through this all the way through. And remember, it was showing that this is all a gift from God, as a walk, as a way, that this will be added to you. This will be added to you, and it will actually be a gift to you, that feminine energy is wanting to give you the power of the dragon, the power of the emperor, so that we are affecting a much greater sphere with fewer people, because the influence goes well and beyond anything that our English Bibles can be giving to us, because there's literally an inward roadmap that every letter is pointing to, and it's translating you into becoming an emperor. The Queen of Heaven is a big deal. You're a big deal. We all are, because of what has been being gifted to us. And so it's important for us to connect to these things, to see the deep measure of what is being given to us in this time. And that's why I'm going to continue to march through these Ascension Psalms, especially, like I said, because we have greater light in. We're moving into the age of Aquarius in March. Oh my gosh, it's just like right around the corner. And so we're moving much more quickly. I'm going to take a look before I get off here. Brett, it's nice to see you. Anders, I haven't seen you in a while. So happy that you're here. I love that. Anders, the word sin means to miss the mark. Yes, as in misunderstanding, chaos inside, and shooting straight, as was mentioned, maybe hitting the mark. Yes, it is. Interesting to let you know that sin is chet, tet, aleph, believe it or not. And so when we want to look at this, it literally is Chava, the mother of all living. The tet's on the inside, meaning that anything that you are wrestling on the inside of you that causes you to be separated from union as one is technically sin. So missing the mark means you haven't found the mother of all living yet, which means you don't have unification. You keep separating. And this is why I said at the very beginning, the biggest challenge that I have, especially when we're talking about different words and people want to hang on to those English narratives of Yod Vav being that bloodthirsty, angry God, is again separating us from that light and that dark side of who we are, our higher self and our lower self. So this is a big deal that we want to get the mother of all living back into us. But until we do, we are going to wrestle, and we're going to continue to wrestle. And so, yes, Anders, that's what missing the mark is. Because as soon as you complete that journey, you become the Kayutha. And the Kayutha, the Aramaic word that was translated as beast, which was grossly mistranslated, the Kayutha, the beast of Revelation, is the living that are now part of Chaya, the mother of all living. They have connected inside. They have completed their journey. They entered into the sacred space of their heart, the intimate chambers of the inward portion of the temple, where they have communed with themselves, consummation, where then they have been immaculately conceived as a new being of light. That's so amazing. And just to let you know, so it was translated as beast, but it's the same Kayutho, or is the same name of those entities that open the scrolls in Revelation chapter 7, but they don't call it the beast in chapter 7, but it's the same exact word. So this process is unveiling to us how to become that frequency of Adam that has the mother of all living back united as one. And that frequency in the gift that divine feminine energy giving to us, the power of the dragon, again, collapsing and refilling if you came in late, is it giving us that sphere of authority of the emperor. And it's answering us and giving us the answer of how to do it. That it's literally a gift from God for us to be able to walk this out and have that authority that opens us up wide, so that the light can flow through us, so that we can be the light of the world, so that we can be the word made flesh, so that we can be the city, those who have been roused awake, that are set on top of a hill because they made their mountain journey, and they did it by the inward journey. So if you want to be the resolve, if you want to be that Christ anointing, it is not given to you automatically because you said yes to Jesus. It takes work. You have to draw it out. Mashiach, memshin, means to draw. Meshi, to draw out silk. You want garments, there's going to be some that are dressed in linen, and there's others that are going to be dressed in silk, because they draw out the anointing. They find the mother of all living. They are no longer separated, but they find and they complete the journey of Chava, the mother of all living, unified back in. That is what the Mashika is. And it comes with the Cha at the end, which is connected to the Merkaba, connecting to our lightship vehicles, our lighted self. So I hope that this is like super exciting you today. I know it was like a whole lot of information that I gave you in one verse. So please, for those of you who haven't joined, if this is like getting you excited and you want to be able to join in, and it sounds like I'm making a plug, and I really don't like to do this, but I'm letting you know that there's an opportunity right now to join on Patreon for $5 a month. Really, learning these sacred languages is priceless. And I wrestled with this because I knew that even at $5 a month, that people will treat it very poorly because it doesn't have great value. It's like, oh, it's costing me $5 a month, like a cost of a cup of coffee. But I also knew that I did not want to be able to turn anyone away that wanted to learn it. And I know for some of you, $5 a lot, money, maybe $5 a month right now is too much for you. I get it. But please don't, that's $5. And I'm making this available for anyone who wants to join in every Wednesday. The replays are all available. I am starting on January 7th for those of you who maybe need a little bit more help that you've already been studying the letters. January 7th at 8:30 in the morning, Pacific time, I am starting group tutoring for people that are on Patreon. It is at the $44 level, and I know that might be steep for some. However, when I work one-on-one with people, I charge $50 for an hour and a half session. And I am going to be offering, 4 to 5 sessions a month at an hour and a half long at group tutoring for $44.44, which is less than I charge on one-on-one. So if you need a little bit of help, we're going to be working through the Song of Solomon. We're going to go very slowly. I'm going to show you how to pull these things apart, how to put them together, and I'm going to draw it out of you. This is not something I'm doing for you. I will be teaching you how to do it so you can draw it out yourself. I love the fact that Ken and I can come with these translations and show you our translated work, because it's a reflection of the mirror of who we are. But we're getting the benefit. You're hearing, and it is helping change your mind. And I know some of you are meditating on it, and it's softening your heart. But the real work and the real power comes in through the translation of the works yourself. So that the robes that you wear, if you want to wear silk as the Queen of Heaven, many will be wearing the garments of righteousness, of right doing, which is Mother's teaching of the outer world, and will be clothed in linen. That's awesome. Like, so amazing that many are going to be clothed in that. And I thank you for your light, and I thank you for your work to get there. But there are going to be those that are going to be clothed in silk. And those are the Queen of Heaven. Those are the ones that went through all of the work, that went through their shadow, turned and transmuted everything. And most of them in this regard will have come through the sacred languages. Not all, because many, like I said, you can do it through different avenues. You can do it through Sanskrit, as studying the Sanskrit language. You can do it through years and years of meditation. It's not just one way, but I'm saying that this one is a much quicker than 30 years of meditation. And yes, you can go find Sanskrit teachers, but obviously you're being drawn to the frequency of what Ken and I are producing, or else you wouldn't be here. And so, again, I want to make that available to anyone who wants to join. Please check it out. It's patreon.com/thestand121, no spaces, and just check out what we have. But until then, I'm very excited to continue moving forward through this psalm, these psalms with you. And it's going to take us a while, because, like I said, I just went through one today. One verse, just one verse. But I don't want to leave anything out, because I want you to see the depth and the beauty of these languages. So thank you for your time. We're already at an hour and 11 minutes. I love you very much, and I mean that with all of my heart. And I appreciate all of your energetic exchange of what you've been doing for us in supporting this message. We love you. Haleva.